Hello everybody. I haven't posted a video in a while. Well, I've been so busy with my work and then this two Netflix series came and I started watching it last month. First was Squid Game that's released on September 17, but I binge watched it on a Sunday which is on the 19th. And I was surprised how great it was. And that's just not it. On the upcoming week on September 24, Midnight Mass was released. And same thing, I binge watched the freaking thing on a Sunday on the 26th. Holy shit. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks of extravaganza, goddamn. Mike Flanagan is now a certified master when it comes to slow burning mystery of horror. But first of all, we're going to talk about Squid Game. The 9 epic episode that's so well made, every single story arc matters as it progresses. The first episode was literally a punch to the gut surprise. The human emotion and interaction was realistic, and I think that those reactions from the characters were extremely rational if that were to happen in a real life situation. The best thing about Squid Game was the exploration of the characters, especially in the second episode. That's a real build up of character development. And as it moves along, you began to realize the intensity of the game that can potentially harm our main characters. Man, I mean, Koreans are talented people when it comes to movies or series. I really loved Old Boy, and I saw The Devil, Train to Busan, The Wailing, and also the famous award-winning film Parasite. They just they just don't disappoint when it comes to world build-up and atmospheric settings. That's a non-stop entertainment, guys. And my most favorite and my most emotional episode that I've experienced in the series was episode 6. There's not much of a thing going on in that particular episode, but the character exchange and the staggering drama around each scenes as we see that the characters we love are in danger and there is really no going back from that. I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen the series, but it just hit me, you know? The emotional impact was there and it was necessary. Episode 7 and the finale was also perfect in my opinion. The only filler story arc was the episode 8, where we get to see the frontman himself. But the scenes after that matters because we get to the point where 3 of our main characters are the ones that are left. And you are at the edge of your seat because you are focusing on the screen, okay? And you don't want to miss anything. And you are experiencing the weight of the shit that these 3 characters are doing. And you are constantly thinking what could and should happen in the season finale. And I want to talk about some spoilers ahead, guys. So, this is a warning to you all. If you haven't seen Squid Game, I recommend you go see it when you have a free time. It's worth a shot. Yes. You just have to read the subtitles because their native tongue is much better than the English dub that's also in Netflix. So, our lead character and protagonist that we are following as audience is named Gi-hun. And he is basically in deep shit, alright? And buried with a lot of debt to be paid. So he gambles a lot just to earn a bit of money for his child and to pay his debt to some mafia or something. And after gambling, he lost his money because someone stole it from him. And that someone will also be our secondary protagonist named Se-byuk. Se-byuk? If I'm pronouncing it right, she is also in debt which she cannot pay. And we are also introduced to some characters named Sang-woo, Il-nam, the persistent old guy, okay? Abdul Ali, Jokso, Minyo. If I'm pronouncing it right, there are a lot of fucking characters in this series, okay? It's a lot to take in. But also, it's the entertaining part here. It is because of the story as it progresses. And the games begin to intensify these characters that we are introduced to us. We are somewhat concerned about what's going to happen next, and the series explores the teaming up of how the strong and the weak survives. That's the coolest heart of the show. They are beginning to make an effort to make up a strategy, guys, on how to play the game, because each games that they are about to play, it is introduced to the characters on the spot, so that there would be no preparation from them and not knowing a single thing about it. And each episode has a unique way of telling hints to the plot itself. And even though some episodes are at least 1 hour, it doesn't feel like an hour because you are constantly hooked to the screen. And that's a major plus points of making the audience interested from start to finish. So many films and series like Squid Game explore this kind of genre. You know, examples of that are Cube, The Belko Experiment, and Escape Room, and none of them were at this level of Squid Game. I loved how the first game was introduced to the characters, and they were all surprised as fuck, and people are dying pretty quickly. Second game was hilarious at the utmost level, and I love the strategy that Gi-hun did with the sugar honeycomb. The third game was Tug of War, and our protagonists basically strategized the shit out of that game, even though they know they are not stronger than their opponent. Well, the fourth one was about the marbles, and that's in episode 6. That's the part when the emotional scenes got me. I won't spoil it for you because it will ruin the experience. The fifth one was about the glass bridge, where you get to choose what number do you want to play accordingly. And that is some brutal and straight out of nightmare sequence. And the last one would be the Squid Game itself, where Gi-hun and Sang-woo were the remaining players left. Okay, I've never seen a white knuckled brawl in a show for a long time. That was some mixed emotions episode because you want them all to survive and bring the best out of themselves. It also hit me because I understood the motivation and explanation that Sang-woo was making, and you are beginning to understand why he did all those things. He's just scared and just wants to help his mother and his family. Same thing with all our characters, especially Gi-hun. But he is more of a principled guy that's on the right track, which I love because he is so pure of heart. That's what makes Squid Game really good and entertaining, guys. Not because of the games that's surprising and brutal, but because of the characters, their motivations, and reasons why they are not backing out, and some just wants to go home. Every one of them has a perfect reason to be there and not to be there at the same time. I thank the filmmakers that made this show because it is such a ride to binge watch this series, and I loved it. I got nothing else to say. I won't grade this series because I don't think it's right, and I just enjoyed watching them. And I also think that they are a masterpiece for those filmmakers. Woo! Oh my gosh. Like, that's it. That's Squid Game. And coming up next, guys, we're here to talk about another series that deeply impacted me on another level. Because horror series like this is quite rare these days. I've been following Mike Flanagan since I watched his horror film titled Hush. I believe that I first watched Oculus in 2013. I just lately realized that Mike Flanagan was also the director of Oculus, and I appreciated the prequel to Ouija, which is Ouija Origin of Evil, and his film in Netflix, which is Gerald's Game, and one of my most favorite horror film in 2019, Doctor Sleep. It is the sequel to The Shining, and I won't forget that he also directed the Netflix series The Haunting of Hill House. That was such a surprising series, and I loved every single jump scares in it. Midnight Mass, guys, is far more superior from his previous filmography. I really think, in my opinion, that this series is flawless when it comes to slow building of mystery and tension as it progressed to the climax. I just want to warn you all that this series is not for everyone. I can see people will get disappointed and offended with some religious aspects of the story. But for me, I think they did a great job in tying up the horror elements with some backstory about religions. Just be cautious. I'm warning you that don't be so gullible when it comes to this series and films that tells you something different about your beliefs. Just enjoy the show, guys. Enjoy it. Because this horror series is truly a masterpiece. I love every second of it. And every scene is so important for each episode. It is only 7 episodes, but it is very beefy when it comes to compact storytelling. The first 4 episodes are a major build-up of atmosphere, and the story is quite slow-paced. And you just have to trust the pacing, because once you started to get the plot and all of it are making sense, you'll have a wonderful time with the finale. I mean, it's a surprise. I want to talk about the twist in this series. So I will give some spoiler warning for you all. If you haven't seen this magnificent series, I definitely you go check it out instantly. So our main character that we are following as the audience is named Riley Flynn. He had a major sin, which he killed someone while driving drunk. So in the beginning of the episode, we explore that his character is flawed and traumatized of what he did, and he began to lose faith with his religion and chose to be an atheist. But later on in the series that we get to see how his character motivations and how we see him as a character that's falling down and basically want to make a change. Okay, so as the story moves on, we also get to know the character of Father Paul, Aaron Green, Sheriff Hassan, and many more. But first, we are introduced to Father Paul as the substitute of the town's priest for their church, which is Monsignor Pruitt. Okay, so and holy shit, guys, we just know that this series is like everything else when we are watching, but it is not. It is not. The best thing about this show that it is slow paced. The mysteriousness of it, it's slow paced. Okay, so we are itching to know the truth, and as we begin to uncover all the plot, it is very unique and awesome as we get excited for the climax. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Okay, we know that the doings of Father Paul will make an impact later on with the story, and we are right as the audience. Okay, but it is far better and somewhat cool when we know that the main plot of this series was about vampires. Yes, Father Paul was Monsignor Pruitt all along. He just became younger because of the vampire that he met a while back when he was sick and got trapped in a cave. He thought that it was an angel, but it's not. It's basically a bloodthirsty monster that wants to live for eternity. That's the most unique way of hiding a simple plot from a horror series like this. It is kept secret for 4 episodes, and boom, you are greeted with a punch to the gut surprise with the most interesting twists ever put to Netflix. So the miraculous events that's happening in the small island of Crockett was all because the doing of a vampire. And the cup of Christ that they're drinking from the communion was basically a blood from a vampire. And when they drink it, they will somewhat slowly transform into a powerful human being. And I love that every time Monsignor Pruitt wanted to have a taste of that blood and slowly transforming himself into a real vampire. He cannot go outside, guys, where the sun shines, because he knew that he will die, and that's where he came up with the idea of moving their mass to midnight whenever they wanted to go to church. Okay, there's basically a lot to talk about in the series, and it's just not about the horror elements of it. It is also about the strong beliefs of each characters in the story and how they are treating people with what they truly believe what's right, you know? And I don't want to express further more about the season finale because it is something out of a nightmare. and I had goosebumps, guys, while watching it. Mike Flanagan handles the jump scares in this series really perfectly. There's not much, but when there is, it is freaking scary, and some of its imagery were still in my head when I went to bed that night. Okay? So, those are my thoughts about these two series. I will not grade any of them because it's not fair. I really enjoyed them very much, and I hope that I will watch it again in the future when I have a lot of free time. In my opinion, guys, these two wonderful thriller series was a masterpiece, and I'm looking forward with more of this next year and the years to come. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Until next time. Goodbye, amigos.